G'day everyone, and welcome back to another episode of YJ Garage. This is episode 4 of my MX-5 rebuild. It's finally time to put the engine into the car. Alright, so we have the engine hanging on straps on the engine stand. Just gonna jack it up, but as you can see I don't have a lot of space to work with. The garage is still a mess. Ignore how dangerously close the engine is to destroying that headlight. The roof has a couple of beams, so I have to watch how high I lift the engine as well. I had to clear all the things I had on the floor, including my original engine, but it looks like the engine will install as long as you can fit the legs of the engine stand under the car. There should be no problem. Alright, now it should be pretty simple, right? This just has to go from here to here without crushing or breaking anything. Just going to move the fuel injector rail out of the way since I left that in the car, as well as the rest of the wiring harness. Last thing I want to do is have to go in and repair wires. As those of you who have seen my Mega Squirt ECU series, my wiring skills leave a lot to be desired. Alright, attempt number 1. You can already see I've made the mistake of the hoist being almost at max height, but the engine not being high enough to even get past the fender. But me being me, I tried anyway, while making the fender bear the weight of my hopes and dreams. Here I'm checking I didn't crush the front support, and then realizing that the engine still has a fair bit of a way to go, and I can't get any closer because I didn't jack up the car, which is always step 1, right? Okay, so here we go. I've got the car jacked up and put the engine on a lot higher by tying the straps around the engine stand chain a few more times. I've also set the engine stand to 500 kilos, so it should be able to go out a lot further than before. Alright, now it should be pretty simple, right? This just has to go from here, over this, and to here. Attempt number 2, let's see how it goes. Got the shifter turret pretty much to the firewall, but looks like I'll need to push down on the transmission end to go through whilst avoiding it getting caught on anything. At the same time, I'll need to lower the engine as it clears the front support bar. Or so that was the plan. Looks like it still couldn't go far enough. As you can see here, the engine is even higher with some sketchy tying of the straps and moving the engine to the 250 kilo position. This time, once the engine was in, I actually needed the jack to hold the transmission level and avoid the back of the engine coming into contact with the firewall. So the engine mount on the intake side just needs to go a little further to there, and on the other side I need to move the AC condenser over the bracket. Remember, it was hard to take out, so I'm putting it back before the engine gets in place. I'll also do the headers while the engine is still in the air. That's also a lot easier with extra room. Here I'm just checking the shifter is roughly in the right place using the jack. The engine mount on the exhaust side is a hole, so best to line this one up first like so. The engine mount on the intake side is a slot and a lot easier to line up. So apart from having 3 attempts at getting this set up right for the engine stand, this went a lot smoother than I expected. And down the engine goes. Never ever to be moved again. And now moving to under the car. My favorite place to be, under 1,000 kilos of metal supported by a couple of metal stands. We still have the mid pipe to connect to the header, but first the transmission has a couple of things to connect up with. The drive shaft slides back in easily, and on the other side there are 4 bolts and nuts to connect up with the differential. I'll get to those a bit later. The transmission needs to connect back to the PPF, aka the power plant frame. I dropped my PPF, so I need to realign it. I've heard you can get some odd vibrations and unwanted noises if it's out of spec, so I'll take the effort to measure from the PPF to the rails using a plank of wood. I couldn't do it while filming because I wasn't buff enough to hold it with one hand, but you get the idea. Connecting my speedo sensor so I can see how fast I'm going. That's kind of important. The wire harness also has a bolt that attaches it to the transmission. With the reverse switch plugs, it doesn't matter which way they go, just as long as you plug both of them in. Two bolts for the clutch slave cylinder. And this is where, after all that, I realize the transmission is slightly off center. It's a bit to the left, as you can see. It took me quite some time to realize what had happened. It wasn't until I was going to just leave it and tighten the engine mounts to the chassis that I realized. See, there's a bit of indentation on the intake side where the nut used to sit. Now it's sitting a little bit higher. Checking the engine mount for the reason, and it turns out I made the lovely mistake of putting on the metal cup upside down. See the hole? There for draining, and should be on the bottom. I really did not want to pick up the engine again, so with a bit of force I managed to jack up the engine on one side and flip the metal cup around. And you don't need much space to do this, but I highly recommend, if anyone's trying this, not to make this rookie error. Much better. I really hope that you guys learned something out of that. There was a lot of trial and error. I've edited out as much as I could, but I did want to show the full process and all the mistakes that I made so that maybe you can get something out of it. Anyway, let me know if you liked the video, like, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.